Charity, I am such a super fan of you. I'm so happy that I get to talk to you about everything that has happened in your life, the complete
Yeah.
huge life experience that you just had as the Bachelorette and where you are now. Like, I'm just so thankful. But even without all that, I'm so excited to get to talk to you, not just Charity Lawson, the Bachelorette, but Charity.
Thank you for that.
Being here.
That is huge. And I said it time and time again. It's like I just want people to obviously like recognize me for like Charity, not just like the role of Bachelorette. I'm sure you relate to that. So it is an honor and a pleasure to be sitting in front of Hannah Brown. I'm so happy to be here, and I can't wait to dive into all the things. It's gonna be good.
I mean, you are an engaged woman.
I'm engaged. I know, this is crazy to say. I literally am an engaged woman. Yeah.
How does it feel? I mean, to be able to like say that out loud.
Oh my God, it is like insane. I've been like on the edge of my seat, like watching these episodes back. And like, obviously it's like you're reliving these moments, but it's like they're 10 times more special when you're just like kind of zoned in on the person that you're with. So like watching like the moments between me and like Dotton, it's just like, oh my gosh, like it's just, I cried. Every single thing is insane. But yeah, it just makes it that much more better. So like I've been waiting to just say and tell everyone and just be happy and let that show and radiate.
Yeah, no, and you can definitely see that. And I can imagine, like, I love how you even just said that, because some people say, well, focus on the negatives of watching it back and how hard it is. But even just how you're like, when I watch it back, I just focus on my relationship with Dotton. Like, that is really sweet and telling, and that it makes you feel these emotions. Like, it seems like you're so happy where you're at, and you feel like this is your guy.
It is like I'm beyond happy, and this is why like I couldn't wait for these moments to talk about it, because it's like obviously we see what like the viewers see what's on TV and what's, obviously what we can say is the edited version of it all, but it's like I also experience these moments. And when I was telling my family and trying to like make sense of like our connection, it's like some of the stuff like that's not shown. It's like I wish I could put into words of what I was feeling and what helped me like come to the decision of like, oh, this is the person that I'm going to be like spend forever with. But like when I say this whole time leading up to like the end, like between me and Dotton, there was just like these little signs that I would get that I can't even like make sense of. And I know like it was just like direct from God or like whatever, the universe. And I was like, this is insane. There was a time where I like even tried to like brush it off, because I was like, this is like me in my head, or like this is like too good to be true. Like I talk about that so much. But like when I say from beginning to end, like it was just a true love story.
I will say I picked Dotton for you. I love Joey because he's just a little sweet
precious
baby.
Yes.
And I could tell like you had two men that really, you could tell from the beginning. I'm like, okay, these guys really like love her and are being, I feel like being themselves. But Dotton's older, right?
Dotton is 30, and then Joey is my age, so 27.
You can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell the maturity that I feel like Dotton had, and just the way that he holds himself.
Yeah.
And the way that he could hold space for you.
Exactly.
It was really special watching. And I think going back to like, your background, I think you could probably really pick up on that.
Oh, for sure. I was like, the way this man talks nonetheless, but it's like from our very first like conversation that really I felt was transformative for the both of us. I like what I just explained to you. It's like just being seen. It's being seen for like Charity and like the depths of who I am as a person, not just like me in this role as Bachelorette. And I really felt like he took the time to really like get to know me. He was like very observant of like how I carried myself with like the other men. Like those are things that like truly like someone who really loves you is going to pay attention to. And like I don't have to ask for him to do that. Like I didn't have to tell him to do these things. Like he's just already just so emotionally aware and in tune with himself to do that. But also like getting to the point where he's in tune with me to like, hold that space for me, like you said.
Yeah, something that you just said, I feel like a lot of people don't understand about when you're the Bachelorette. there's a little insecurity, I think, for anybody when coming with that. Because, like, what are the intentions of these men?
Mm-hmm.
And are they liking the facade or this elevated version of myself?
Yeah.
Can they get past that? Which I also can say, as a contestant, you see this person in all their like glory, and they're done up
Mm-hmm.
there, and they look the very best that you've ever looked in your life all the time,
Right.
on these beautiful dates, and it's hard not to get swept up in it. And I feel like I was aware of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was constantly like, what are these guys seeing? What are they falling in love with? What is it that makes them, like, they're saying all these things, and I don't think they're all like lying to
Right.
me.
Yeah.
Do they like fully understand that this is them falling in love with like a version of myself, not actually me?
Right. Yes. And so like that is like so huge too, because it's like, I think me also being aware of that like sparked conversations of me asking like, okay, what are the things that you're noticing? And like, I remember asking like Dot and that, I asked Joey that. It's like, what are the things about me that you actually like? And I don't ever want to tell them or craft the answer for them. I want them to tell me like from their hearts of like what they see. And it's like, okay, yes, I'm confident, or yes, like I'm beautiful, but it's like, I get told that all the time, and it's like
Mhm.
there's much more to me. And so like when I knew like they potentially both could be like my person is like when they started just like noticing things that like not a lot of people commonly will ever say to me. And so then that's when I was like, okay, like I got butterflies. Like, this is great. So yeah, it's like really huge when because not everyone, like you said, not everyone can do that or have the ability to like make that distinguishment. And so for them to kind of do that very early on, but like continue to progress in that, beautiful.
No, I think both of your final guys, like I have a different view, and now you will, a different view of watching other people on the show. And so I'm always like really listening to what the guys.
Yes.
And I was like, oh wow, like I was so happy for you to
Yeah.
have, like, of course you found like an amazing guy, but to know that you had, I would say, two guys that really saw
Mm-hmm.
you, and then you got to be able to decide, okay, like who just makes me feel maybe at the safest, the most seen.
Right.
And I don't know, I'm just so happy that it worked out for you. Like, for me, I don't know what it feels like to be like this. Genuinely happy for you.
Thank you, Rihanna.
Talking about Bachelor, obviously, but I wanted to like go back, because I think it's better for us to just go back and like know your history before, how you even got into this whole world. So
Yeah.
that was going to get into where you are now. It just all it just completes the story.
Yeah.
So you are 27 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You're from Columbus, Georgia.
I am.
I have been to Columbus, Georgia. Because it is actually close to Auburn.
Yes, it is. Where are you going? I know you ain't. I knew we were gonna do it.
But it's like only like 45 minutes from Auburn, right?
Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah.
Did you always know that you wanted to go to Auburn?
I actually did not. So crazy story. So I don't know if you know, but like my whole family. So my brother went to UGA, and then my parents are Alabama fans. So that's why. I know. So my dad was like truly begging me, like he was like, "Come on!" Like we toured Alabama, and I was like, "Okay." Like I kept it in the back of like my head, but then like it was just something about when I went to Auburn. Like it was just I felt very like tight knit. Like it felt very like family oriented, and I was like, I don't know, like this is the campus for me. So it's like the typical story of just falling in love with the campus. But truly, like my time at Auburn was amazing. Like I would have never went anywhere else. If I could do it again, I 100% would. So yeah, so I would have probably ended up at Bama, but so thank God I didn't.
Okay. You know what? Wait, so did you grow up like rooting for Alabama, like football team, before you went to Auburn?
Yeah, so I was not even an Auburn fan, so that's crazy. So it's like I was like kind of going with what, like obviously what your parents like kind of instill in the house. It was like my dad like has his whole backstory with like Alabama, and so I was like, okay, like I guess I'm an Alabama fan. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy because my first I don't want to say my first Auburn game was the kick six. So like when like Auburn won at like the 1 second, so I was like, okay, like this is what college football truly is like. In Jordan Hare. So yeah, I was not truly an Auburn fan, but then obviously once I went there, just yeah, gotta root for your school.
Of course, I'm an Alabama fan. I went to school there. I'm from there.
Yeah.
But I also went to school there because of a boy. And I would never suggest anybody to do that. But I met my very best friends that all worked out the way it was supposed to. Mm-hmm. But after that relationship, I dated a guy who was from Auburn and went to Auburn. Mm-hmm. And he's actually was so great that he was the best. But I loved the city. I'm not going to say our town.
Amazing.
It's so sweet. So I understand why you fell in love with it. I never even toured it because I thought, oh my gosh, I can't go to Auburn. Like my family like disowned me. But Ole Miss, that was kind of the place that I was like leaning towards. But it's the best. What is your degree in?
Mm-hmm. So I did both my undergrad and master's there. So getting my undergrad in rehab and disability studies, which I was going to take like the OT-PT route. And I've been working with kids, did a lot of work with like kids with disabilities. A lot of my internships were like focused around that. And so in between getting my master's, I worked in the school system and again, continuing that line of work. And I just saw how much there was like a serious need, or I don't want to say neglect, but like just a need for like that community. But in general, like in the school system, like working with kids, it's like, we don't talk about it enough in general, but like, especially in that community, like I was seeing and noticing like how much these parents and these families like really needed like additional support in like the whole mental health aspect of it all. So I also wanted to like, have a career where I was developing and having these like relationships with the people that I'm working with long term. And so I knew like, yes, I didn't just necessarily want to be in like a hospital setting or just like a rehab setting. I was like, okay, like, you know, when you're working with clients and when you're talking to them, like, I feel like I just talk to people good. Like people have always like told me that in my life growing up. And then obviously just like being so great with kids, I was like, this is perfect for me. So that kind of like fueled my decision of going back to school and like getting my master's in clinical mental health counseling. And that field in itself is so much more broader than just like focusing on school counseling. So that's how I ended up in that specific arena. And it's just been great. Obviously, I haven't been in work some months, but it's fine. Yeah.
You just recently graduated and then life.
Yeah. Life went up in a whirlwind.
I really relate to that. I did not get a master's, so I graduated, and then I did Miss Alabama, and I really didn't like my life just went on this crazy trajectory that I never could have imagined. And do you see yourself continuing going back to working because it's I guess your role is like a child and family. Okay, so do you see yourself going back to that work, or now do you have any other like ideas that you wouldn't have had before of how you want to continue on in different career opportunities?
So I've been getting that question a lot. And for me, it's like, I just know like what I do is a part of my purpose. And so I never want to like just completely like get rid of that or just like act like it's not a part of my life anymore. So I don't necessarily know like how that will look like. I will be honest, like obviously therapy, it's so needed and therapists in general are needed. So I definitely still have the call and desire to do that. But to go back and to do a 9 to 5 at this stage of my life when I have all these opportunities, it's like I can always like come back to that. And that's like the beautiful thing of it. And I think people also like can understand that a little bit better. That's the only reason why I even like took off on this like whole adventure, because it's like I was still fresh in my career. I'm not like 20 years in, and I have all this life experience. But so I do plan at some point to like either integrate it in like whatever I'm doing like in the future. But I don't know if that'll necessarily mean like I will go back in the office and be like 9 to 5 working like 40-hour weeks, because that was a lot.
And I think especially in the last few years, we've realized that you don't have to work a 9 to 5 to make a big impact. And I
Correct.
think the knowledge that you have, and honestly, this is like a whole nother life experience that you can bring into your work. And I think integrating like what you've learned is really powerful because it can help so many people. Now you have so many eyes on you. And I always bring some, it doesn't matter who I'm talking to, I'm going to bring it back to me. I love that you have this knowledge and now you have these eyeballs on you that you can honestly share with so many more people than you would have ever had the opportunity to.
Exactly.
So yeah, I just didn't know if that was still something you wanted to.
Yeah. I definitely do plan on like using it some way, somehow. Just right now, I'm like, I wish I could tell you what that's going to look like, but I'm open to like literally any and everything. I'm just obviously, as you know, at this stage in my life, it's just, I did not envision this. So I'm like, what's next?
I know when people ask me about my life, I'm sure I'm like, I could have never made this up in my head that I would have gone on these TV shows. And for you, like now you're engaged, found somebody that you're like so in love with, and now you have like in a matter of months. So I also like want to say when I'm asking you these questions, if you say, Hannah, I have no idea, I'm like,
yeah. And I will be so honest. Listen, I'm like, I don't know what's next. I wish I knew. I don't.
That is exciting. As a little girl, what were you like? Like, could you have imagined this type of life for yourself being on TV, lots of people watching what you're doing?
No. And it's so crazy because even just like, not even as a little girl, but like 3 years ago or just even 4 years ago, like I would have never, like the person who I was so different. And I like always come back to like the confidence aspect and like that piece that people always say like, oh my goodness, you're so poised. You just like, you're so confident. It's like that was not always me. Like it was not. And that was like, and I pride that to just a lot of like self-growth and like growth that I took on myself to just be very intentional of like really getting myself to the place back, or not even back, just where I think I always was destined to be. I just didn't know if like I had it in me or not. And that was just from like life experiences, relationships. But as a little girl, like, no, like I was just like this little wholesome, like sweet, cute little girl. Great childhood. I did like, I cheered growing up, all these things, like really involved, but I never in a million years would have imagined like, oh, this is going to be an opportunity for me. Like I'm going to be in a position where I'm essentially giving a love story to the world and just like inspiring so many like young women. Like I did not see that for me at all.
But did you have like main character energy as a kid?
No, like no. I
did. I thought I was.
I will be very honest. Like I was like, I don't want to say I was shy. I definitely came out of my shell like way more in high school, but like I was not. I hated like people staring at me. I hated like I just hated like people watching me. I hated being looked at. Like I would again, like it's just like I don't know if it was like a confidence thing or just I was just naturally shy. But like who I am now, like no way. Like it's not anything alike or similar in any way. So no main character energy. That didn't really get, I think, developed until a couple years ago.
Did you start dating? How old were you when you started dating?
Like 15, 16. So like, yeah, that was like my first real like relationship. So like high school. Yeah.
Okay. And in that relationship, did you think you were in love? Because why I'm asking all this is because I feel like a lot of my past experiences really got me to where I was like on Bachelorette, made me, I guess, like, interesting enough and people want to see my love story. So I didn't know if that's something you related to because of some of your past relationships and where that's at.
Yeah. So like obviously like the first like for real relationship was very like brief. And you're just like in high school, you don't really know. It's just like I think it's like puppy love, and you think you have an idea or concept of what love is, but it's just like it just feels good because it's like, oh, like we're in high school, like you're coming into your identity of who you are as a person, and this is someone who's like admiring that for whatever that looks like or whatever. But it wasn't until like towards like senior year was when like that was when I really got like into like this really big relationship, which was the one that I talk about a lot, that was on and off. So it's like it started senior year, and then transitioning to college, of course, that always gets so tricky. So like that was the relationship I think that taught me a lot about like, oh, this is what love could look like, but this isn't really what love is.
Wow.
Yeah, so I learned a lot through that. And it's like me talking about it, I can totally talk about it now, but in the time, I think I knew that that person wasn't for me, but for whatever reason, I was like, this has to work. Like this has to work. And I think obviously, like I think you can relate, just like being in the South, like all of your friends, you see them like get married so early, and it's like, oh, like I had almost this like shame around like if this doesn't work out, I was like, everyone knew like this was like the relationship, and like in high school, like people like looked up to like us or just like saw us as this couple, and he was pretty like well known in my like community at the time, so it's like I didn't want this to be like essentially like a failure. And so I like hung on to this, and I was like, no, like this is not serving me in any way. And obviously I can sit here and say now, like I truly do wish him the best. But like when I say like that relationship really like destroyed me like to my core, like truly. And it took a lot of me like pulling myself up out of it. Like I hid so much from like my family, from my friends, for the sake of obviously just wanting to be perceived well. And it's so sad to say, but like I don't look at it being sad now. It's like a part of like the growth and who I am now. But like, yeah, now being in the position, obviously as Bachelorette, it's like, I know I did the work. I went to therapy. I did all of these things to get back on track and like really like find myself again. And so like knowing that I was not going to accept this role or this position as Bachelorette if I didn't do that. If I had not done all of that, there is no way I would have survived this entire experience. There's absolutely no way, because it almost broke me while like being in like the most stable place that I've ever been in. And so that says a lot.
I wanted to know kind of what your relationship, you answered beautifully, like what your past relationships were like. And I can also relate to that, except I didn't go to therapy.
It's okay.
Like a Bachelor, and so it made for great TV.
Yeah.
But I also that was kind of my story too. Like fell in love in high school, had the guy in college who, you know, it very similar, very, very similar. So when you would kind of refer to that back in the season, I felt like we connected, and I'm sure a lot of young girls watching like or either like in that situation or knew what that felt like. But for me, I didn't go to therapy. I ended up dating the guy in Auburn, and then but still had not healed from that other relationship. And same, like I thought that was who I was supposed to be with. All my friends, I think 7 of my girlfriends got engaged our senior year. And a lot of people, like for you, you're like, oh, that doesn't seem as crazy. But now that I've like lived this world, people are like, what do you mean?
Literally.
But when you said that you felt that pressure to make it work, totally, because most of your friends are thinking like the guy that you dated in college,
right?
It's like we're gonna make this work because this is who I'm gonna like be with, and I'm gonna be I'm gonna have a job for a little while. Then I'm gonna have some babies, and I'm gonna take care of them, which is all great. But that was just the only story around me, and I did like I'm still working on it in therapy now. I'm doing work about what that type of relationship, how much it did hurt me, and how much of that there was a lot of patterns of either the protection that I had and that I continue to have because of that being my first experience with love. And for me, I've started to give myself a little bit more compassion and like see that girl and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. This is what you thought that you deserved.
Correct.
Or that this is what you thought it was supposed to be like. You said that you did go to therapy afterwards. Who and why did you do that? Like, did somebody else suggest that, hey, maybe you need to see help? Or was it you that was like, I can't do this on my own?
It was definitely myself. No one else suggested that for me, which is like, I think is huge because, I even talk about this a little bit. It's just like, um, coming from just like a community and just also like being Black, it's like that's not really like a thing. And like I always want to advocate for just like my community too to just like go to therapy. But it's like growing up in like a household where that's not something that's like encouraged a lot. And obviously, as we know, like in society, there's just like a stigma around mental health. I was like, okay, like this is something that I know I can conquer, but like it doesn't not help to have additional like guidance along the way. And so like knowing that and like being able to like come to terms with that, like definitely like helped me or make the decision and go a lot easier. And initially, like I will say, like starting therapy off like with obviously like a breakup is like crazy, but after like I kind of did all the work in therapy and like talking about all these things, it's like I realized like I had all the tools inside of me. It's just for some reason like I couldn't act on them. And so like that was like kind of the purpose of like therapy for me in that moment. But like my therapist like definitely was like incredibly like proud, and which is like great. But we didn't really like have an extensive time of like processing the breakup because like I processed it very well. It's just like the stuff that came afterwards. It's like, how are we going to move past it? Like, how are we going to like date again? Like, what is that going to look like? How are you going to be able to like identify like different patterns? So like that was kind of like the self work rather than like, oh, like this person was awful to me. And like getting through that was like the initial like point. But yeah, no, like I definitely pushed myself, and I think like seeing that like definitely fueled the spark for like a lot of my other friends or like a lot of my other family members, which like I don't like pride myself in, but also it's like it's really like nice to look back and be like, oh, like they saw me take that initiative and now they're like encouraged to do the same. So yeah.
No, and that's why I love talking about it, because if somebody's, especially you in this role, is like, oh, well, oh, Charity's gone through something like this, and she went to therapy when nobody else around her was advocating for her to do that. And not because your parents don't love you, but like,
Right.
or friends don't support you. It's just, especially also in the South, I did not know a single person who went to therapy, and I didn't feel at that time I was scared to do that.
Yeah.
So to hear that you did that on your own is really powerful, and I think definitely helped you on the journey to healing and finding someone to love you well.
Yeah.
So how much time did you have in that healing process before you went and dated on TV on The Bachelor?
So yeah, it was like roughly like almost 2 years, like a year and a half, 2 years in between, where I did like all that like work. I was just like single, focusing on myself, casually like dating around, but even then like that was still very hard for me because I was like, I don't think I need to even like focus on like trying to date around. Like I just need to like really like pour into myself. And so it's crazy because like as I started to start dating around, that's when I got the call and I was like, what is going on? I did not sign up for this for initially like Zach's season. So the
Yeah,
first
I was gonna ask.
yes,
Yeah.
did not sign up. My best friend at the time, who I don't even say I owe everything to her, but she has been my rock, and it's so crazy because I love talking about like our friendship dynamic. She was actually one of those friends that I almost lost because of the relationship I was in, but she like still saw me, and like she knew like at some point I was going to pull myself out of this, which is so beautiful now to talk about. But like really like it was a rough patch for us, but she saw and knew always like what I deserved. And so she was, I think, more ecstatic than anything. Like obviously she was there to support me like through the breakup, but afterwards she was like, no, like you deserve everything. And she like casually mentioned it to me like a couple months, like 6 months before I even got the call. She was like, I'm seriously going to nominate you for the Bachelorette or Bachelor. And I was like, okay, like I literally like took her as a joke. Like I was like, this is not going to happen. And like, they're not going to see my application or your application for me. And I remember like, that was the only time we talked about it. Like it never came up any other time. And It was right after, like, it was a week after I graduated my master's. I'm over here trying to like pack my life up, get ready to relocate. And I get a call from like a California number. I'm like, I don't know anyone in California. Who is this? And it was a casting producer, and they were like, we received a nomination from you. And I was like, no. I was like, wait a second. And so as soon as I got off the phone, I texted her. I said, did you actually submit that application when like we were joking about it? She was like, I was never joking. And she was like, this is like for you, like for 100%. She's like, I've always saw this for you, your personality. I just know it's going to be great. Like, you're going to do great on this. And I was like, that's if I even get like picked. So like this whole time, like going through the casting process, again, something I'm still working on, but like imposter syndrome just comes up. It's like, I'm not deserving to be in a space like this. Like, me of all girls in the world, it's like, y'all want me. Like, what is happening? And so trying to like get to the point where I'm like, okay, like obviously this opportunity is presented to me for a reason. I don't really know what that's going to look like, but it's, if anything, perfect timing, because I am like in like the middle point of like my career starting and like having time to not, or I guess take off from work. So I was like, let me just like hop on it. And like throughout the casting process, there's just like little signs that I kept getting that I was like, okay, maybe this is something I need to pursue. And so after I think like I had a summer where I was just working, and then I had ended up going to Paris. One of my best friends got married there. So I was like, okay, like just living life. I get back from Paris, and then that's when I got like the official, like, you are casted. And I was like, oh my God, this is happening. And so couldn't believe it. But then obviously like going through like the first time around with Zach, like that was just, for me, like people always ask, like, how was that experience for you? And it was truly like, I had the best time. Like, it was
best time. I loved being a contestant. I would tell anybody to be
like, sign up. It is so fun. It was so great. I learned a lot more about myself. Obviously, like, talk about Zach, have so much respect for him, but like he showed me two things that like I just probably hadn't really seen a lot in like guys, or the guys that I was like dating. So it was like a breath of fresh air, but also like coming to the point where I did get eliminated. But even then, it's like I also was trying to make sense of what our relationship could look like. And I was like, okay, maybe this man could be my person, but maybe he's not. So it's like understanding and like making sense of that, which helped me in like the post-Bachelor world and processing that breakup. And so, yeah, like I just accepted that experience for what it was, and never in a million years again did I think, okay, Trudy, you're going to be like the Bachelorette. Did not, because I know, like, obviously, you know how it goes. There's so many other people that are like considered, and I just don't like, I'm really humble, so I don't think of myself as like, oh, like I'm going to be like the top person, the top candidate. Like, I never thought that. Yeah. So I didn't know, like, obviously, like that it was going to be announced that day. I knew I had went through like the interviewing, and I was like, okay, like it could be me, but it also could be the 3-4 other girls that they were considering. So I was like, whatever, like if it's supposed to be for me, it'll be for me. But then like, obviously, like being told at Women Tell was pure shock, and like, just, I could not believe it. And yeah, like that was obviously like the turning point.
Yeah.
For me and how I ended up here.
So, kind of 2-part question. Had you watched the show before? And what, you said you did learn a lot about yourself on The Bachelor, but what was like the most surprising revelation for all that made you decide, oh, like I really think this works?
I did watch some seasons, so yours definitely included in that. I watched your season. I want to say Becca's, JoJo's, and then Peter's. So yeah, so like just the iconic ones, as we like to say. I definitely did watch some of the seasons, but like as a viewer, I just never again in a million years saw myself like, oh, I could maybe be on there. So I guess as going through the process as a contestant, I think for me, I always like pride myself on being an expressive person, but I was not always like the greatest with words and like the greatest with like, communicating how I felt in times. And so like, obviously we know how intensified of an environment that is, especially emotionally. So like I did have a lot of tear play as a contestant, but that's okay. I think just like coming to terms that like I am well spoken, or I am able to be expressive, and I'm able to like communicate effectively and like transparently like how I'm feeling these moments, which was crucial for me because the moment that you hinder yourself from being expressive or being able to like feel these things, like it stops the process or it stops the growth of what you have or what you can experience with the person. And so I think I really allowed myself to like have that in its fullness as a contestant. And I saw like around me, like a lot of the girls were just like, oh, I don't want to cry, or like I don't like I'm not going to show tears because it's like for some reason that equates to strength. And I'm like, no, your tears are beautiful. Your tears are strength.
I would say kind of the same thing for me of it was like definitely a growing experience being on The Bachelor. Somebody just even making me critically think about how I was feeling in these certain these moments and what emotions were coming up that I didn't expect. Like I had never really dug that deep. And I thought that's why I did love being a contestant. Like, I mean, I showed a wide range of emotions.
Yes.
So, but it was fun, but also freeing. And I think that's for me.
Yeah.
I did like, I was like, man, I mean, it was a long shot for me to become the Bachelorette. Like I did not even make it as far as hometowns. So I did. I was like, you know what? Like if this is for me, I want this to happen. Did you want to be Bachelorette? I mean, I know you said you didn't like expect it for yourself, but was there a part of you that's like, after this experience, like I really think being the Bachelorette is something that is for me?
No, I really didn't. And I will be so honest. It's like people kept like kind of putting it in my ear, and I was like, no, like I was so like really dismissive of it, but not in a negative way. It's just like, no, like that's not like, it's almost
like after the show, you still like, no. Okay.
Well, as a contestant, I definitely did not think
for
sure. Yeah. But then even like after and like kind of processing it, everything, people kept saying like, oh my goodness, like you're just American sweetheart, like people love you, like, and it's just like, yeah, like people love me, but it's like that's just like what they saw. They saw that on TV, and like I also like knew myself at my core, so I was like, I just don't know if that's like a thing for me, and I never like really envisioned like the idea, concept, role, Bachelorette ever. And then obviously like I remember just like getting initially approached, and I was like, okay, like I guess they just have to go through their like, the order of like not rankings, I hate saying that, but just like the order of like when people got eliminated, and like, they always like start with like the top 4 or whatever and then work their way on. So I was just like, I don't know, like I don't know if people are really going to like connect with me. I don't know if like I even like played a pivotal role. Like I don't know, like I just did not hype myself up enough. And so that's when I kind of like, as like it became more of a conversation, I was like, I wonder why I am like being chosen, or I wonder why I'm even being like considered. And like I think it was just like it boiled down to like, again, what I just talked about. It's just like the emotions. It's like I was transparent, I was real, I didn't hold back. Like people connect when they at home are also experiencing these similar things, and they see like, oh, this girl's not afraid to talk about this on national television. She's going to show her true self, whether you like it or not. Like that is real. And so at the end of the day, I was like, that's probably why. I don't know. And then yeah.
But for you, I guess like just not even without the TV show out of it, like I guess were you skeptical of like, oh, not even just like showing the world, but like, can I really do this? Like, can I really fall in love in this short amount of time, with then knowing that there's eyeballs watching? It is a TV show of your real life. Was there a part of you that was a little skeptical, or was like, no, I really believe in this and want this as, a potential way to find my person? Before
both. Definitely both. Yeah. So skeptical. I even like after I said yes to it, I was like, what did I just do? Because the hard reality is like I could go through this all over again and it not work, or like something, whatever, like it could be another learning experience, and I don't get what I truly would want out of it, which is like finding a person, but that's also okay. But it's like I did have that idea too of like, oh, I really do think like because it worked for me and I became emotionally invested, like I would hope like that would be the same this time around too. So like I definitely did come in or like have this idea of like, oh yeah, like it definitely could work and I could find my forever person. This is a different way. Like dating in the real world sucks. So I was like, once like this can't be any worse, so why not? But also like extremely skeptical of like just the whole thing of like, am I going to get good guys? Am I going to get people that are going to really be here for me? Like, is it going to work? Like, is it just going to be like very like just like friendly? Like, am I really going to fall in love? And like I was not certain of that at all. So like that was a really scary part.
The first night you're there, you're meeting all these guys. Was there a part of you that was like, and I now don't really believe in like a spark fully personally, because, and I also have heard you talk about chemistry, like chemistry is important, but it's not the most.
That's the only thing. Absolutely.
Did you, when everyone's coming out of the limo, I'm sure there was people that you initially connected with, but was there like, did you have this moment when you went back of like, oh, should I be feeling something different? Or did you feel like you were feeling all the feels from the first night?
I think like limos, obviously, like I will be transparent, like you're in a daze almost. It's just like you're kind of going through the motions. It's like, all right, they're coming out. You're just excited to honestly see how they look. Like, what's their personality like initially going to be like? So like that is all that was going through my head. And I don't think there was really a moment where I was like, oh, like that was like a true spark, like where I was like electrified or anything. Like I did not feel that. But I think there was like obviously moments where I was like, oh, this was like really sweet. Like this was really sincere. So it's like I was able to kind of like take mental note and like, okay, keep it in the back of my head. It's like, this is someone I definitely want to talk to inside, or just like, I hope I get to talk to them inside. So that's kind of how like the night like initially went. But then obviously once you get inside, like for me, it was raining. So like that was just not fun. So like this is chaotic night, but getting into those conversations, like those conversations are so important and everyone's nervous, but like, obviously we see me like my first impression, Rose. I was looking for like just moments, and I think you can relate as a lead with everything that's going on. It's just so many moving parts. When you finally sit down with someone and it just is like, you don't feel like you have to like be on, or you don't feel like you have to think about it. It's just like, all right, we're just like really kicking it and cooling it. Like that was how I felt with like some of the conversations that night. And that was like honestly so refreshing. So like those were the moments that I was kind of looking for initially. But even then, like I don't think, like, yes, I felt the energy and I felt like, okay, like this is like a good group of guys, but I can't say like, oh, my husband without a doubt, like is there. Like I didn't know.
No, I totally get that. I think for me it was definitely like this slower burn for sure. And I had a moment, I don't know if you had this, where I was like, I don't know if my guy is here later on. Did you have one of those weeks where you just like, I don't know if this is a short amount of time, I don't know if I can make this decision? Or for you, was it different?
It was like, obviously like first week and then the second week, when I guess this is like me giving away my love story, it's fine. For the first 2 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm just like here. And like, yes, I went on like these great dates. And like, I think Aaron B was like one of my first dates. And I was like, oh, well, he exudes like, you know, these great qualities, but it's like, I'm still waiting for like that feeling that like truly just like shocks me and like makes me like really like just have a moment where I'm like, oh God, like it's here. Like, this is what I actually like came here for. And for me, that did not happen until like Oceanside. And so that was like week 3, I believe. And obviously that was a conversation with Dotton where I was clearly moved to tears. I wish there was so much more shown in that moment, but like I was like really crying, and there was just so much more that he also shared in that moment that was just so beautiful. But it was like, that was the first time I really truly felt seen for like myself. And I talked about it like at the beginning with you, but it's just like, those are the little things that I think for me, that's what I needed, rather than just like, oh, like chemistry. Like I had chemistry with a lot of people, but like that can't be enough. Like I can literally go in a bar and like have chemistry with someone. Like that doesn't mean that that's my person or that person is for me. So like, obviously week 3 was the turning point of where I really was like, okay, it's happening, it's here.
And then from there, it just continued to grow.
It continued to grow. I was a little nervous. I was like, what if that was just like a moment? That was just a moment. But like when I say like that was like the true like start where it just took off, and I'm forever grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. How has Dalton been with watching it back?
He honestly has been so great. Like,
he's a man.
no, literally, we watch most of the episodes together, so it's been like great because we've had happy couples that have like landed on like Monday, so we would watch together. But yeah, so like watching it back with him, I'm always like, I think I'm so hypersensitive, way more of his emotions at times than I am of mine, because I'm like, I know exactly what happened. You were in just like locked in with me, so constantly like checking in with him, but he just communicates his feelings. He's so emotionally aware. So like that is just like honestly like God given, because just a man that is able to make sense of like what he's feeling, translate it back to me, and then like come up with a plan of like how are we gonna like together move forward.
The next question, like y'all have already kind of come up with a plan of how to, because I think that's so important. Y'all talked about, okay, what's life going to be like after this when everybody knows we're together?
Yeah.
Some people in BFE somewhere are going to be mad and upset because they like somebody else, or they're going to start poking at your relationship. Y'all have decided and have made a plan for action on that.
Yes. All those things. I think we're just like both like, it's truly a blessing because, again, I just say someone who's just equally as emotionally aware, but just also mature. Like the little things like don't bother him versus like, we talk about it and joke about it now. It's just like, if I pick someone else, like I could see like something like this, like pissing them off or like making them upset, and then like they would get mad at me. But like, that's not the case. Like, he just is always so reassuring but gracious, like with me, knowing like I had to do XYZ to get to the point of where we're at. So like him understanding that in itself is huge. But like, just like obviously like we watch or like we see things like on the internet, and like we don't, initially I think it was harder for us to kind of like work through and like be like, okay, what does this mean? Or like how, like for me, it was a lot more harder because I'm just very hard on myself too at times, but also like just seeing like the critics or just like people trolling on the internet. That's not easy ever to deal with. And obviously this is the first time I'm ever having to deal with that. So like, I don't know what I'm doing, but he's just so sweet. And like, he helps me with like, just like setting boundaries. We're like, we're not going to do this today. Like an angel. So yeah, we have a game plan for how we're going to like deal with, life outside of this. And now that it's announced, what it's going to look like. Yeah, we're both just always on the same page, and I am really appreciative of that. Yeah.
Have you been like really supportive with how everything has turned out, you being engaged, bringing Dalton?
Yeah. So obviously they met him initially at like the Meet the Parents, like the last episode before proposal. And I was obviously scared because I'm just like, I love these two guys, and it's like, what are my parents or my family gonna think? And I will say, like, it just went so beautifully for both of them. My mom is definitely a lot more critical at times, and that's just my mom because she has seen me like truly in the depths with my past relationships. So she's like so like making sure like, oh my goodness, like this person needs to be like really good for my daughter. But then I think obviously once I got the opportunity to like sit back down with them and like recap, like, okay, these are both of them. I'm in love with both of them. What are your thoughts? And like, they were just both like just so elated and happy for me. And they were like, you can't go wrong. Like that's essentially what like my parents said. And both gave like their input on both of them of where they feel like, these would be like just good things for you in your life moving forward with this person and also with this person. But like ultimately it's up to you. And I think for a lot of it, I was trying to get my parents almost to kind of say like who they wanted. And I was like, no, Tree, you can't do that because like, yes, your parents are going to support you, but also like, this is your decision. You have to marry this person. You have to be with this person and spend time with them. And it can't be like what your parents want. Like, obviously it's like, I want them to be in support, but it was for me to make. And so, I think getting their blessing, they both got the blessings from the parents. So like with Dotton, just they love him and they think he's just an outstanding guy. And so we're just really excited now to just obviously join our lives together and just be happy.
Where does he live?
So he's in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. So y'all have a plan for how y'all are going to?
Yeah. So we are not planning on doing long distance. I know, it was like probably it's crazy. We do not want to do long distance at all. It's just like I'm in Charlotte right now, so like it's just I mean it's a quick flight, but like we're just I don't know if this is a bad thing. We're just like too in love, so like, we just, like really don't want to do that. So we talked about possibly me coming to New York, but if not, don't really know what the next segment of my life is going to look like. So if there is like opportunities for me, like in LA, we both don't want to be there long term. Like we have come to that because we just like the lifestyle, the type of people, and like no shade to anyone in LA, but I think you can also just relate. It's totally different. So right now we're set on New York, and
there's so many opportunities there, and great community that you can make there. I think that would be so fun. I think living in New York would be great for this season of life for sure.
I definitely agree. Yeah. So either way, like both big cities, ample opportunities, but we're just gonna temporarily like take things day by day. But either way it goes, if we do decide on New York, it won't be forever. It'll be like a couple years, just because like if at a point when we start thinking about like just getting married and having kids, is like we definitely want to be in like a more I don't know. I told him I was like, I'm bringing you back down to the South.
He's coming back to Georgia.
I don't know if it'll be Georgia, but he's coming to this region. I just need like, obviously, or even like, well, probably not.
Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking, I told him, I was like, maybe Nashville. So we'll see. So he's totally open to that, but we definitely just want to like have a moment to ourselves and just live in a fun space and city and be cute little cuties.
No, I think that's setting yourself up for success. I mean, I know like if people who decide to do long distance, like it's worked for some people and some people it hasn't. But I think that being able to navigate this time together is so crucial.
So crucial. Yes.
In all of this, did you ever have, or do you still have any moments of like insecurity? So many voices are coming at you. How have you been able, you are so confident, but what kind of grounds you in that? Is it other people around you? Is it your faith? Is it just doing all the work that you've done to know who you are? How do you still have those moments, and how do you combat that?
Yeah. I would be lying if I said I didn't, because at the end of the day, we're all human. So whether or not that's like 4 days on and you're just feeling so good and then you have one bad day, that's also okay. I will say I'm not perfect, but I think for me, it's like, yes, when I do have those moments where I notice that I'm like starting to come back or go into that like sunken space a little bit, I'm like, let's wait. Let's figure out what's going on and where is the root of this coming from. So I think it's just like obviously like knowing how to identify that is huge. So that's like the first step, but also like I can always resort back to just like who I am as a person and knowing that like at the end of the day, yes, I did go on television to find love, but like that doesn't define me. And I think I think the biggest piece for me at least is like leaving this space and leaving like the Bachelor world and like gaining like autonomy and control over like my relationship and like who I am. Like that was just a time and that was broadcasted for everyone to see and like enjoy, and that's great. But like life goes on and like this is the next chapter. So like regaining like that control over my life again definitely like helps. And it's hard sometimes. Like obviously people are not going to always agree with what you do, but like that is whether or not my life was on TV or not, that was going to be like the case anyway. So I think knowing that, and then also just like coming to terms is like I made the best decision for myself. Like people aren't me and they're not in this position. They don't even know, like they see again an edited version of a TV show. They don't know the conversations. They don't know everything in its entirety. So I think just being rest assured in like who I am as a person, but also knowing like it's my life, it's my decision, and no one else can control that but myself. And so,
For sure.
yeah.
Kind of want to go just touch briefly back more about the schedule and this quick amount of time.
Yeah.
What I know for me, I was like so shocked. You think as a contestant,
Oh my God.
it is nothing.
You have no idea.
What did you do? Yeah, you have no idea. And they said they're tired. I'm like,
oh, no idea.
You're tired. Did you have any moments by yourself? How did you use those? How did you make it? It is, and I know that sounds crazy. People are here like, what do you mean? How did you make it? You know what I mean. How did you survive and keep yourself grounded? Like, what were little things that you did to survive the schedule?
The schedule was truly the biggest shock of my life. I was like, I don't know honestly how I'm going to do this. It was really scary, honestly, at first, because I think they can tell you as much like, oh, like the schedule's going to be intense, but you really don't know what that's like until you were in it and going through it. And again, on top of how emotionally like intense and mentally intense, it's like it takes a toll physically on your body. So it's like you're always moving, you're always on the go. I remember like I had to like get to the point where I was like, I need like protein bars because like I can't even like have a full meal right now. And it's like that's like crazy to talk about, but it's like the truth and the reality. So it's like that was a lot. But also just like finding moments where I'm like, I'm always around someone. I'm always with someone. It's like I just need like a moment to myself. So I had to like actually like speak up and advocate. Like I just need give me like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, like please. And like I started like telling them like I need this moment in my schedule beforehand so I can journal, so I can like clear my head out. And like they respected that. And like I was like, this is a part of like, I'm sorry, but like let's talk about it. My mental health. Like if you guys want me to like to be sane, I need these moments to myself to where I can like be in tune, connect, and like have moments to just meditate. And so with that, yeah, like I journaled a lot, had moments where I was just like to myself, peaceful, did request like massages. Like I needed that to just like get all that bad energy and like stress out. But also like my faith was a huge part. So like on top of bringing my like journal, I had my Bible and like my devotions with me. And then like, obviously I don't have a phone, but I would tell like producers, like, I need this song played today. Like there's just like my grounding song. So like all of like, just like my, you know, contemporary Christian songs, like that was just so helpful for me to just like have moments. And then obviously like just praying throughout, like that was just really helpful for me. And it's like a lot of people won't understand whether or not you identify like with like religion or not. Like for me, like that's just a huge aspect of my life. And so being able to like incorporate that in like my daily routine as I'm doing all this nonsense was huge. So yeah.
No, I definitely relate to that. That was something I tried to advocate for myself. And I had moments for sure, but it was the first time I was not prepared for like, oh yeah, you get moments, but it's like 5 minutes. And that was really important. I needed that groundedness. I think what a lot of people can take from listening to this conversation is you had done a lot of the work before. And I think that really set you up for success. It set you up with trusting yourself a little bit more. I think so. But I think it would be really hard if you didn't even have those 5 minutes. And like you said, whether or not like faith is a part of your life, I think it is so important when you're in a new environment, especially dating, to take time to assess how you're feeling. What like especially in a schedule like that, it's go, 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 next thing, next dopamine hit, next adrenaline, next drama that you have to try to somehow settle. It can make it really hard to know, okay, is this how I'm feeling, or is this where like the story's going?
Correct.
And I don't mean that I'm not saying like you get to make your own decisions, but you can get caught up in you know, this guy is coming in as like the sweet guy that does everything and says everything right. So maybe I should go this way because this is where the story goes. Or, oh, this guy makes me feel alive. But is that alive in a good way, or is he just making all my emotions go up and down?
Exactly.
exciting. And I think it's really smart of you that you advocated for yourself for those times to just get centered. And I think that's why it led you to the decision that you've made.
Yeah.
Do you have any regrets?
I always say no, because every single decision that I made led me to where I'm at now. And that I can say I'm grateful for. I have learned watching this back to give myself grace in that I did what was best with the information that I knew at the time. And that is all you can go off of. So watching it back, sure, like I'm getting a hyped in the moment of like, that's insane. Like, I didn't know you were feeling that way. I should have like maybe took the rose back, but it's like, no, like I didn't know any better. And I did not have full like outlook on like everything that was going on behind the scenes. So it's like, I could only go based off of what I was feeling. And
we're talking about Braden.
Yes, correct. For example, with the snatching the rose.
Yes. He's like, but I mean,
he's great TV, truly, but like
TV. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed him. But did you like have that in the back of your mind of like, oh, like he's good TV and he is fun to hang out with?
That's really what I was resorting to. Like it wasn't even like the good TV, because like obviously I don't know what's gonna make air, but it's like you're really fun. Like, and like, are you gonna be my husband? I don't know, but like, am I having more fun with you than someone else?
Yeah.
So like that's okay.
I know you wanted to get engaged at the end. When he would have these conversations with you about having doubts, was there part of you that was like, oh, at least he's being honest? And some of these other people are like, no, I am for sure ready to get engaged. But like, you've only had you've only had like maybe 20 minutes of conversation with me.
Yes. And so, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And so I think some people see that and it's like, oh my gosh, like he just said that he's unsure. I empathize with, oh, at least he's saying it. Like, yes, this is what I want for sure. And maybe we're not in the same place, but at least he's being honest with me. And maybe that was my own insecurity. Did you feel that way?
No, 100%. And I can like give an example of like someone who would always talk about like, oh, like I see like forever with you. I see you as my wife and I'm ready to take you home. Like we saw that like very easily after like Sean won the group date in Oceanside. So I was like, okay, like this is our first real moment together, Sean. So it's like, this is crazy, but it's like, okay, like I'm glad you feel that way. But also like for me too, I'm like taking all of that still with
Red
flags. Yes. And it's like, hold on. But like with Braden, it's like, yes, like I realized watching it back, like how he would talk with the guys. Like it was very
that was the issue.
Yes, like he
would go back. Yeah.
Yes, so he was very different with the guys and how he would talk about like things with me, but still the moral of the story is like he still was very like honest with where he was at. So he's not lying about that when he was like, I told you everything. Like he did, but it's like it's how you're saying it to me versus how you're saying it to the guys, because like you're really bold and like I'm packing my bags, I'm out of here. But then it's like I just really like just know I really like you, but like I just don't know. Like I'm still unsure. Like it's complete. Like it was the change of tone. It was like how the wording was. It was so different. So that in it for me was like, I don't know, sometimes came off as like a little manipulative, but overall, like he was very like open and honest about where he was at. And I did appreciate that. And I told him time and time again, like I get like you're unsure about this whole process because it is very fast paced. And like with him, definitely something I was very appreciative of, but still hard. Like when I like make sense of our entire relationship and what that really looked like. Yeah.
Well, why I wanted to talk to you and why I've admired you so much is I don't think you could have done anything different. I just have being on that side, being someone that has grown and learned so much from my time there. Watching you, I felt like, oh, wow, this is somebody that girls can really look up to, and how you handled all these situations that are not normal.
Yeah.
But you're putting yourself out there. And I have a lot of friends right now. It's kind of like how I want to wrap it up.
Yeah.
That, have been heartbroken, have, maybe had some of those hard, not ego hits, but are scared of love again because of how they thought love was.
Yeah.
the love that they thought that they have experienced. You obviously, like, you've healed from that, and you did that, like, for the world to see, and now you are in love and engaged. What advice would you give someone who is apprehensive but ready to put themselves back out there again and date? What would you tell them?
It is okay to be apprehensive. Like, that is completely normal, and I want to normalize that. But it's scary in general. Like, this is life, and you will never always have all the answers that you need. You will never be, and as maybe bad as this might sound, but like, it's okay. You will never be 100% sure.
Yep.
There will always be like that 2% or like that 3%, however margin you want to like leave. But if you have done the work on yourself, I'll always start there. Like, it always starts within. If you are searching for happiness with someone else, you will fail every single time. And I don't like to use that word, but it's the truth. You will truly fail every single time. So if you can find happiness within yourself, you are secure in yourself, and you know exactly what it is that you're looking for, the standards that you have as a person, and just allowing yourself to just have fun with it. I think so much pressure on like dating. It's like, I have to do this right, or like dating is not supposed to be this chore, this task. Like, it's supposed to be fun. Obviously, like, pay attention to like the ones that are just no good and like red flags, but like, have fun with it. Like, give yourself like the opportunities to explore. You're never going to stop evolving. You're never going to stop growing. So like, dating is also can be used for that. So if you're in a place where you're ready to put yourself out there, just like go for it, leap of faith. At the end of the day, I will say, your intuition will never lead you astray. That is something that I've had to just like kind of come to terms with, because I would always like deny or just be like, like, that's just like me in my head. But like, I'm telling you, like, learning to be in tune with like how your body is feeling around someone, or just like knowing what those like feelings or sensations are like inside, that is also going to be a huge like sign and guidance for you. So just starting with just loving yourself, and then I'm telling you, like, it'll come to you, and it'll probably shock you or just like come out of left field, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? But it will be the most beautiful thing ever. So
that was such great advice, and I totally agree with everything that you're saying. Charity, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. You really taught me a lot and could teach a lot of other people how to advocate for yourself, love yourself first, to be able to find the love story that I'm so excited to continue to root for with you and Dalton. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Hannah. It has been truly a pleasure. And again, you are such an inspiration to me, so many others, and to even just be in this space with you right now. Like, again, I'm just like, I'm still in awe, but never letting a moment like this like be taken for granted. So I cannot wait, hopefully, to maybe come back, or us like up and have fun together. Yeah.
I think Dalton and Adam would be buddies, so let's make that happen.
Let's make it happen. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.